So today what I'm doing is I'm actually preparing my character for animation, and we at this level here. Oops, let me check. Let me change this and get the right tool. I will need a pen. I'll need that ink as what I'm gonna be using to fill in the blanks, and I'm gonna go back here because I'm gonna be using a lot of selecting. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna go ahead and start dissecting this character. I'm gonna go ahead and prepare him for animation, which means we're gonna break him into different pieces and bits, and we're gonna be cleaning up a couple of things here and there to make him animatable. So anybody who really knows what they're doing in animation will be able to make this character do whatever they want him to do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna need a lot of layers because every moving part needs to be on its own layer in order to be able to be animated in the right way. So what's gonna happen now that I need a lot of layers, I'm gonna get rid of the sketch layer. Oh, before we actually do this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this. So I have another copy that I could go back to in case I want to change a couple of things. So I duplicated it. I'm going to go ahead and select this new one here. This is the project we're going to be working with. And I'm going to go ahead and delete some of these and remain with only one layer. Remember, deleting layers is not, you can't undo this. So you have to be careful before you do this. And I'm going to delete this one as well. And I'm going to stay with only one layer. So every part that is going to be moving needs to be on its own layer, and that's exactly what we're going to be shooting for. So what's going to happen is I'm going to put the head. Let me see how many layers I'm going to need. I'm going to need the layer for the head. I'm going to need a layer for his torso. I'm going to need a layer for his hands. Those are 2 layers. So I'm going to need 3. Left hand. And 4 right hand, and I'm gonna need 1 layer for all the legs, for each leg. So 5 right leg and 6 left leg. So you can see right there you already have 6 layers consumed. And remember, the legs, you could break them into 3 layers. For example, when we go to make him walk, you're going to have to break those ones. Each leg could break down into almost 3 layers. So you're going to need about, the hand, we could literally break it into 3 layers too. So that's going to make, put an addition of 3, 6, 8. Another 8 to 10 other layers. And remember, Flipaclip does not allow a lot of layers to be added to it, otherwise it slows down a lot. So you want to be careful. But what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and start dissecting this guy and creating different other layers out of him and, polishing it up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my selection tool. And I'm going to go on the head. And I'm going to cut around here. Make sure all the components I need in the head are selected. And I'm going to go ahead and copy it. You copy it with this button right here. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer on top of the ink layer, which is going to be the head. Now, this is very important. At this point, you need to learn to name all your layers because it's going to be very, very important. So this is going to be the head. You don't want to confuse them at all. And I'm going to update it, and I'm on the head layer, and I'm going to go ahead and paste. So why can't we see it? Is because all layers are turned on. So we're going to go ahead. Let me first cancel this. I'm going to go on the head layer, and I'm going to paste. And you can see now we have the head on its own layer. If you go to layer number 2, if you turn on both layers, you're going to see that you have the entire body. But if you leave only layer 2 turned on, which is the head layer, you have just the head. And now we're going to work with just the head. And I think our head is actually really good. Everything on it looks good. We don't need to work on it a lot, but I'm going to go ahead and try to kind of, finish it up a little bit. Give it a little bit of a nice finished look to it. And I have my inker selected. Let me start with the eyes. Round them off a little bit better. I'm going to go and bring the eraser. Let me see how big it is. Yeah, 1 is good. So that is the smallest you can go. Make it a little bit cleaner and a little bit more interesting. Professional too. So I'm going to go ahead and delete in these lines a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and bring this inker and make sure all these are filled in. Pixelation, I said yesterday because of the raster. It's a raster program, Flipaclip. It's not a vector program. So it's going to give you a little bit of pixelation. But that's fine still. It won't show up in your final animation. And I'm cleaning up both eyes here. Making sure I give both of them a little bit of a clean look. And you can see it's a little bit of gray there at the end, but it's actually there. And now we're going to zoom out and see how that looks like. So you can see 2 eyes. This left one is cleaned up a lot better than the right one. So we're going to go ahead and clean up this one a little bit more. Make it look a little better. And for now, we have him with kind of dead eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and give them a little bit of a sparkle to make them shine a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of white in there. Just a little bit. And let's see how it looks like now. It looks a lot way better than it was. And we're going to go to our shadows as well. This is when I'm going to bring in my highlighter. And I'm going to choose the color using the color picker. So I'm going to choose the shadows first. I'm going to make this very small, maybe 4, 5. Let me see what 3 looks like. 3 is actually good, so I'm going to leave it on 3. I'm going to give it a little bit of, I want it to have kind of a hand-drawn painterly feeling to it a little bit. So that's what I'm trying to achieve here. And I'm going in here in his whiskers a little bit and adding a little bit of information. I want it to be a little bit darker here as well, where the nose is casting the shadow on the other side. And I'm going to make this go a little farther into the line. Because remember, when we were putting in our shadows earlier on, they were kind of, blurring in the lines and jumping up and down. And some of them were not, pointed nice. It's all about cleaning up your work at this point and making sure that by the time you take your hands off of your character, is actually it's convincing. That's all I should say for now. And remember, because it's going to be animated in this fashion, we're just creating kind of like a puppet. But after that, you're going to create, we'll be working on a 100% drawn character that we're going to be, drawing every frame. We won't be creating a puppet. We'll just be drawing a different character. Drawing each frame. This idea of animation is kind of taking a puppet, and then on each frame we're going to be copying the same puppet ideas and carrying over the information onto the next frame, and making sure that we have it repeated on each frame. but using the same puppet. But for our next character, we're gonna be drawing each frame from scratch. We won't be using this idea of taking over a puppet and animating it on a given frame. It will just be redrawing each frame by frame. That's what frame by frame animation is all about. It's even more time consuming. But puppets drawn right and created right save a lot of time. However, if one thing goes wrong, then you're doomed to starting everything from scratch. And that's when your skills are really going to be put to test. And so you can see now it's starting to clean up a lot. And that actually looks a lot better. I wonder if I can put some of this green in his eyes to make it actually unified, a lot unified. So I dropped a little bit of the opacity down there to put a little bit of color in his eyes, and I actually like it. I'm gonna add a few pixels to it so it doesn't just look like a line in there. Drop in a few pixels more. That looks pretty good. So what's gonna happen? I'm gonna go ahead and bring in a little bit of the light as well, because these were the shadows. I'm gonna go ahead and bring in a little bit of the light as well, and we'll continue to polish it up a little bit. So I'm just gonna select the color again, my color dropper tool, and I will pick up the light color. I'm gonna leave it on 100% opacity here. This is where you change the opacity of the color. So I'm gonna leave it on 100%. And I'll go ahead and add in a few more highlights. Just to give it kind of a painterly feeling to it. Is the style I'm going for here. And when you zoom in, you can see how each pixel that you touch or each pixel that you fill in with color counts at this point. Because it gets too pixelated, but gives you a little bit more control when you zoom in. And so you can see right here, I'm painting in the same color that is on the nose that is there. So I can go ahead and make it actually a little bit more lighter to show up there. You can see that. Oh, that's a little bit too light. So I'm going to go down a little bit. Yeah, that's good. And so you can go still back again in the same highlight and add even a deeper highlight into it. See what that does? It gives you an even more painterly look to it. And I like that so far. And I'm not worried so much about our black line, the outline. I'm not worried about so much about it. I'm just going to go ahead and give it a little bit of a nudge at the end. And I think that should be good. A little bit more pixels in the eyes to make it seem a little bit more alive. There we go. That should be good. a little bit in the mouth here. I'm actually gonna change his mouth color a little bit. I'm gonna give him a little bit of let me go for this grayish red. Let me see how that looks like. I may have to paint it in all black though. That's not bad actually. Just gonna make it a little darker. Yeah, that's actually not bad. At this point, when you zoom in a lot, you might as well just paint pixel by pixel, because it pixelates a lot and it shows up. It literally shows up. So let me change course here. Let me bring in my Inca here. And I'm going to go over to the ear here. I saw this. I need to fix the, oops, that's on white. I need it on total black, the total opposite of what I need. So I'm going to cut this off like that. And now this is when we can actually play with our line a little bit. So our line was on strength 2. And we wanted to keep it consistent, so this is when we can play around with it a little bit, give it a little bit more definition. You can see that over there, a little bit more definition. Looks good. I'm gonna go back and touch on it a little bit, because remember, the paint was eating in it. And this cleaning up job may not actually look very big. It may be just a few touches here and there, but it makes a lot of sense. And if you actually don't do it, your character may still stay blunt. But if you take a little bit of a chance and do it, you come up with even a better character. There we go. That looks way better. And up here, I'm gonna add a little bit. And I'm gonna go on his mouth and add a little bit. And on this side as well. And you may add as much or as few details as you may wish, depending on exactly what look you're going for. And there we go. So our head is finished. That's good for a head layer. It looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and, oh, thank you so much for the likes. I'm gonna go ahead and create another layer in which we're gonna put the torso, and now the way we're going to be organizing these layers is going to be important, because every part determines where you want, the layer to be. You want some of the layers to be underneath others, to be able to show you, the head is going to be on top, but the layers that are actually proceeding out to you or you see first are going to be the layers that you want to be on top, and the layers that are going to be behind. For example, the torso layer is going to be behind the head layer because you want the head to pop out first. And as you can see here, the torso is going inside the head, so you want the torso layer to be underneath the head layer. And you can see here already the head looks a lot better than this area here. You can see because this is kind of finished. It has a finished look to it compared to this one here. And so that's what we're going for. Cleaning up your character and making sure that everything that is going to be animated is on a different kind of layer. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and create another layer, but let me select the part that I want to put on that layer first, and it's going to be his torso. And here's where you want to pay close attention, because it's not going to be where the torso, whatever we're seeing here, goes through. It's going to cover a little bit more space. It's going to overlap with the head. It's going to overlap with other parts of his body in order for us to create a beautiful torso that we're going to be able to animate, and it doesn't seem to have other parts of it falling off of it. So what we're going to do, we're going to select our selection tool, and I'm going to go ahead and select my torso like this. And I'm going to go like where it overlaps with the head a little bit. And I'm going to cut it off there. And I'm going to bring it down. And I'm going to select copy. Oh, 1 second. I was actually on a wrong layer because I'm copying on the head layer. But I'm supposed to be copying on the ink layer. So that's all not good. So I have to change the layers here. So I went onto the ink layer now, and I'm redoing it again. So I'm going to go ahead and decapitate him from up here. Cut down where the torso goes. And close it off. And I'm going to go ahead and copy it. Go on to another layer. Create another layer in between the ink and the head layer. And I'm going to name this body or chest. Let me name it chest. Chest. This is going to be his chest area. And I'm going to go ahead and paste it on the chest layer. So it's pasted in now. And if we go ahead and turn off the head layer and turn off the ink layer, you can see that we have the body or the torso area that we're going to be working on to finish now. And I'm going to do the same thing like I did on the head layer. I'm going to go ahead and make the lines and the outline a lot more vivid. And I'm going to go ahead and pronounce the shadows in the lit areas more to make it a little, look a lot, give it a polished look, kind of a polished look. So I'm going to go over. And still you're using the same exact tools that we used in the one before. And let me go ahead and clean it up now. So you can see the area that we selected is supposed to be overlapping with other areas, in that if you have the head, for example, if I turn on the head layer over here, you can see that it's overlapping with the torso or the body layer. Why? Because if you were to animate it and you select the head, you want, when you move it around, you shake it around, you don't want it to literally go off of the torso area. That's why you have to keep overlapping these. But the way you organize your layers, it will make some of them recede in the background or come up front depending on where they are in the organization in the layers. So that's the trick behind it, and that's why you actually want to have them overlapping a little bit. So I'm going to start with the line work on this one to close it off around here. And close it off on the bottom. And now I'm gonna go ahead and bring my highlighter. I like painting with a highlighter because it gives you kind of a pressure. Let me actually put it up and show you guys what it does. It gives you kind of a white brush painting kind of feeling to it. You can see if you press down, it gives you those dark marks, and when you go easier, you can actually repaint on top. I don't know if this effect is coming over really nice, but if you go over it, it gives you this kind of a painterly feeling that not any other tool has in Flipaclip. So now we're gonna go ahead and select our layer. We're gonna go ahead and select our color for the shadow. And this entire part up here is gonna be a shadow. Remember, I'm coloring over whatever you see as part of the head, because that's not gonna be showing up. That's gonna be underneath the head layer on our character or in our animation. So I can cover up all this and I'll still be very safe. I'm gonna put my brush on around 4 so I can get these details right here. Paint all of them in. Same around here. I'm still gonna use kind of the shadow. And you can see this with the hand. That doesn't matter because this still is gonna be covered by the hand. So I still can go ahead and fill this entire part in with a shadow, because all this is going to be covered by the hand. But why you want to have it still in the same colors is because when you swing, say if we're doing the walk cycle and you swing the hand, this is what is going to be showing. So you want it to be actually kind of part of what is what the colors of the character. Even though it's going to be overlapping with the hand, you still want it to have the colors that your character has. So it feels like one huge block. In that way, even the person, say this character was going to be animated by a different person, it will still make sense. They'll be able to animate it. And so we're just gonna clean it up here a little bit. Oops. I kind of lost my program there a little bit. Cover all of it in. Extend my shadow over there to give him kind of a belly kind of feeling. And under here, I'm still just gonna give him the shadow. And now I have to get rid of this line here, the hand line. But I'm gonna use the highlight color. So using the color picker, I'm just gonna go over this line so it doesn't show up. Because remember, this is the line of the hand. This is the line of his hand from the original character. If I can turn that on, you can see that's the line of the hand that I'm trying to get rid of. Now, if I put everything up for you guys to see, actually, let me do this so you can see how wonky it is. Look how crazy it looks. But it doesn't make any sense at this point. But when I turn the head layer on, you can see how it's starting to make sense. And how the overlapping of the layers is actually making sense. If I turn it off, it doesn't make any sense. If I turn the head layer on, now it makes a lot of sense. The character still feels whole, but it's on different layers. And that's what we're going for. Every moving part is supposed to be on its own different, layer. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn off my head layer, turn off my ink work, and concentrate on working on this torso still. And I'm still working with my shades and tints at this moment. And I think I see somewhere where I need to do a lot of work. It's going to be this. So I'm going to go ahead and actually cut this out. Around here like this. This is how it's going to be. I'm going to cut it around there. So this entire thing has to go out. Let me make my brush a little bigger. Not too small. Around 11. Yeah, that's good. So I'm going to cut this around there like that. On his chest. Yeah, that looks a lot better. I'm going to bring my color pick again. And I'm going to give him the shadow to go around like this. Giving him kind of the curvature of the chest. And this is all going to be buried underneath the hand. Unless he starts swinging his hands when he's walking. When we later on animate the walk cycle. I'm going to go over this as well. And remember, this is a little bit of a part of the hand on his left hand, so I'm going to cover that as well. Yeah, that looks more convincing. And for some reason, I feel like I should do this right here. Yeah. Oops, that touched my line. I'm going to try to preserve that line a little bit, but I'm going to go back over it too, again, with the inker. And I should be able to... make it a little bit more pronounced. So let's go ahead and choose our inker and give it the color black and make sure it's on 2 or 3. 2 is good. And let's make this line a lot vivid so it feels a little bit controlled. It feels like it's not running away from us. And now consistency is key here. So you want to give him kind of the weight of the line to be kind of matching what we have on the head. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the head layer now. So I can make sure that my line is a lot similar. It doesn't have to be the same exact weight, but it has to feel kind of similar. And you can see it feels a little bit similar. I'm going to go in here And I'm gonna make this a little darker right there. And so you can see it's starting to even look even more polished. And remember yesterday after we colored it in, we did a little bit of polishing by adding the shadows and the light. But still, that was not enough. It feels like we have to do more to make him feel even more polished. And that's what animation is all about. It's time consuming, but it's very satisfying. And that looks really nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and round this off. His chest area as well. You can see here the shed went into the line a little bit, and I don't like that, so I'm gonna go ahead and cover it off as well. And that looks good. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm pretty satisfied by this. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it at this. And I see something actually on the head layer that I don't like, which I'm going to go back and erase a little bit. So let me go on the head layer, and then I'll choose my eraser. And I'm going to make it very small, 0.1. And it's this line here that is bugging me, right here. That line is bugging me right there, so I got to get rid of it. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. And you can see how our character is coming to life now, even better. I think I should go back in here in his chest area and do a little bit of finishing here, around here. I need a little bit of finishing around here. So let me go ahead and do that. A little bit of polishing there as well. So chest, we're on the chest layer, and let me choose the right tool, which is supposed to be the highlighter. So I have my highlighter over there, and I'm gonna go back in here. Let me actually choose the color that we need, which is this grayish color, and I'm gonna go over it one more time. Yeah, that's actually what I'm looking for. It's gonna eat away on my line, but I think I may have to go back and fix that line. I don't like how that kind of was whitening on the at the end over there. I don't like that. So I'm gonna try to cover it all up and see what it looks like. I don't know. I don't think I like it. I think I should play around with the opacity of... I should play around with its opacity. Yeah, that's so much better. That's what I'm looking for. Yep. Definitely, that's so much better. Oh, yes, that's what I'm looking for. That's the gray I was looking for. And for some reason, now you know you have to play around with the tools. So I chose the right tool, chose the right color, but you still have to play around with the opacity a little bit to give it the effect that you want. You can see how that all is put into consideration. And now that I went over all that, now I'm going to go ahead and make it even bigger. And choose an even lighter color to go on top of this. So I'll still have my effect, but it will look a lot more controlled now than it was before. Yeah, like that. I can actually go even farther and give it a little bit of this. Let me see what that looks like. It's a lot sharp. It's starting to look like a window, so I'm going to get rid of the last white bits over there. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and select this and go for one in between and make it blend in here a little bit. Yeah, that looks good. Let me try to kind of smudge it a little bit. Oops, that's not right. Let me choose the right color first. That isn't right either. We still have to play around a lot with these tools in order for us to get where we want to go. And I think that looks good. Now I have to go back and choose my inker and still go back over my line here that I messed up again. And this should complete the body layer or the torso area layer for us. All right, and now we're gonna go ahead and head over to the legs now. And so the legs, one of the layers has to be in front. Actually, before we do the legs, we gotta do the hands. I realized that as soon as I turned on, the whole ink layer. Let me turn off the head layer as well and stay only with the ink layer. And I'll go ahead and select the hand. This right hand, his right hand, I think is supposed to be the layer that is topmost. It's a layer that we need to be on top of the torso area. So I'm gonna go ahead and select that. All we need is the hand. And with the hand layer, we're gonna do something that we haven't done with the other layers that we've worked on, which is making it go all the way to the bone. We're gonna make sure that we clean it up even better. So I'm gonna go on the chest layer and then create a new layer, which is going to be his right hand. So this is gonna be the right hand. Update. So I'm gonna go over to it and I will paste. And it's pasted over. So I'm gonna turn this off. I'm gonna turn everything else off but the hand. And it's time to show you what I meant. I'm gonna clean this up all the way to the line here, so that I don't have this grain after the line, because I don't need that. For example, when he's walking and he's swinging his hand and it goes off of the torso, you don't want to see that grain following it. That's why I'm gonna try to make sure I clean all of it off. So this is when I zoom in. I bring my eraser. I need a very small eraser because this is thinner than a line. And I'm gonna go ahead and clean all the way to the bone, like so. And what's gonna happen is when I'm giving him a more vivid line, I'll cover up all this little bit of grain that is left. I'll make sure I cover all of it up. And this is actually the same technique you use in Adobe Animate. If you're animating, you just have to create your character's animation ready. You have to make sure they are all on different, layers, because everything that is moving, it's easier if you're moving it on a different layer and you don't have to tamper with the character, with entire parts of the body of the character. It's a little bit different when you're doing 3D animation, because 3D animation is kind of a mathematical calculation. So you can have everything on the same layer. For example, in Blender, you can have everything on the same layer, really, but you have, it's different mechanics. It's very different mechanics in that you can animate a hand. Everything is in a 3D world. It may look like it's obstructing the torso, but it's actually in a 3D world. If you change it, depending on what axis you're looking at it from, it exists in a real 3D world, which is not with 2D animation. In 2D animation, everything is on the same plane, and if you don't separate it, you're going to be in for a huge surprise when it's time to animate it. So we're going to go ahead and put this on 2 and give him a vivid line here. Oops, that's too much, to cover up all the grain. Again, this is when zooming in helps. I still want to maintain that line, but I don't want to go off of it a lot. I still want it to be feeling authentic and part of the same exact character. A little bit more there. And so we don't have a lot to do on this hand. It's all gonna look almost the same, but we definitely want it on a different layer. And so when we're animating him walking, he's gonna be swinging it, but it's on a totally different layer. That way we can be able to control it. Now, for all the after animation and emphasis and anticipation and all that stuff, we may still need to move this part out of the moving the entire hand. So we may go ahead and cut this part off too and put it on a different layer. But we'll see that when we get there, because proper animation, you may need to cut this entire hand into about 1, 2, into about 3 or 4 pieces. But Flipaclip doesn't allow that much layers, so we will see when we're animating it how much we need. It's not going to be a lot of work to cut this into pieces when we're animating it then. So we're going to leave it at that for now, but later on I'm just letting you know we may actually need to cut it into more pieces. But you can see actually when we turn a few layers that we've cleaned up, you can see that. You can see the hand is on top of the torso. It's a totally different 2 layers. If I can toggle them, you see, it's totally 2 different layers. But when you turn both of them on, it looks like it's one character, and that's what you have to aim for. That's what you have to aim for. And what's gonna happen now is I'm gonna go ahead and emphasize its highlights and dark and shadows a little bit more as well, to feel like they're part of the same character, because you can see here, this is a little bit darker than here, and I need that uniformity a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on that now. It should take just a minute. To do that, I'm gonna toggle this off, and I'm gonna take the head off as well. Let me leave the head on, but I'm gonna work on the right hand layer for now. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring our highlighter, choose the highlighter here, and I'm gonna go ahead and choose the color. Remember the color dropper tool, pick the green color for the shadow. Oops, that's too much. I think it's too big. Yeah. And sometimes the cleanup work may not be too much. It may be just that little bit of, a sliding there that you want. It may be just that, and it's enough. You don't have to go all crazy with it. But even that little bit makes a lot of a difference. And now we're going to introduce this color. We're going to introduce this color for the shadows. And I'm going to put it a little bit on the side here. A little bit, not too much. Just making sure it's rounded off a little bit. And I'm not going to worry too much about his suit. Oh, that's another thing, by the way, guys. So in our next character to create, it has to be clothed. It has to be. I'm tired of just dropping in colors like this and working on them. The next character, we're gonna give him clothes. We're gonna make him wear something. And that way I'll show you actually how to animate the clothes as well, because that's a whole different ball game. But it's actually very, very interesting. It gives the character even more life. So that's gonna be good right there. I'm gonna go here a little bit in his forearm or the paw, whatever this is. And I'm gonna add a little bit of that as well. So it's those tiny details that actually make your character stand out and feel a little bit different. And some people may even look at it and they're like, there's something to it, but I can't put my hand on it. But it could be, trust me, it could be those little things like these little additions here that make it feel a little bit more lifelike. And so our hand is done. Our left hand is done. Right hand for him. And one other thing here, usually what happens is some people just take this hand and copy it and put it on the other side, and that's actually perfectly fine. And I'm going to show you exactly how it works, because on his other hand we're going to be seeing just a little bit of it. But all you have to do is put it behind the torso, and it's all about the organization. For example, if you take this torso and if I can select it, if you take the torso layer and put it above the hand, you're gonna see that will be making it giving him the other hand. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and slide this, copy it, and now you can see we have two hands. We have a right hand copy, and I'm gonna go ahead and name it left hand. Let me make that caps, left hand, and update. And now all we have to do is grab it and slide it underneath the chest, but also move it. So I'm gonna go ahead and select the information on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring my selection tool, select it, and I'm gonna move it to the other side. Oh wow, that showed me something actually that I need to work on. Something very, very important that I need to work on, and it's this window right here. That's why I was like, that thing feels like a window. on his torso, you could see that white stuff. You are seeing right through it. And I should have picked up on that because it looks exactly like the color of the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select my paint bucket. And I'm going to go on the torso layer, which is the chest. I'm going to change the color, the fill up color, to that gray. And I'm going to fill it up. And that way you don't see the hand through the other side. That would be weird, looking through somebody or looking through your character like that and being able to see what's happening on the other side. So that looks a lot better. And you can see we have a left hand as well. All right, looking pretty good. So that tells you now that you have the same kind of hands, you can kind of animate them the same way, but you have to be very, very careful, especially when it comes to the shadows and it comes to the lights. When you're animating, it may look very, very wonky if both parts look exactly the same. You have to be very careful with that. But I'll show you how to go around that as well, especially during the animation process. And we're going to go ahead and turn on our legs. And you can see now the legs, it feels wonky. It feels like his right hand is in front of his, crotch. But we will fix that when we select the his left leg. It has to be in front of that hand, so it will hide it behind it. But even though it's hiding behind it, for example, let me just turn off this a little bit. Even though the hand is hiding behind his torso, we know it in our head that he has a full hand on that torso. And it's very important for us to know that because we're going to be using it to animate it. I see another line that I don't like on the chest. So I'm going to go ahead and clean it up. And it's all about cleaning up as well. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that up. And I think that was supposed to be his left hand. So I'm selecting it. And I'm going to go ahead and bring out my eraser. It's on 1, so that's perfect. And clean up here. I'm going to clean up all the way to the thigh area. I still see pixels of green running through, so I'm going to go in a little bit more. And this is why if you are kind of a person who appreciates animation and film, you definitely know how much time it takes for an animator to put in. And now if we turn the left hand on, you can see that looks a lot more normal. We could turn the right hand on as well and the head layer on. And our character is coming to life. It feels like we didn't do anything from yesterday, but it's very, very important. And we're having actually a lot of stuff covered in this video. And that way, afterwards, it's like rigging a character. If you're doing 3D animation, it's like rigging a character where you have to make sure all the parts are moving in the right directions and all of them have bones and joints in them that you should be able to move them. And that's actually, if you go to big animation studios, that's going to be a whole job of a different person. So drawing a character and coming up with the character is a whole job for a different person. Creating that character and modeling them is also a different department. Rigging is also a different department, and the actual animation is a different department. Color is different, and special effects is. These are all different departments that work on a video or a film. But we're going through all of it, because it's a one-man show here. So I'm going to go ahead now and turn this off. Turn all these off. And I'm going to go to my ink work layer. And I'm going to start working with the legs now. Let's work with his legs. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the selection tool again. And the legs, remember, we're gonna do it exactly the same way we did the hands. We're gonna create one perfect leg and go ahead and copy it and paste it for the other part of the legs. So I'm gonna go ahead and select this right leg, which looks more perfect than the left one. I'm gonna go ahead and select that one. There you go. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and select that one. I'm going to copy it, create a new layer, and my new layer is gonna be, it could be underneath the chest, but it has to be in front of the right hand. No, it has to be underneath the right hand. So I'm gonna go on the chest, add layer, and this is gonna be the right leg. Right leg. Update. I'm gonna go on that layer and I'm going to paste, and there it is, it showed up. I'm gonna take this one off and I'm on the right leg layer, and now let's work on the leg. So I'm gonna bring the eraser fast and I'm gonna clean it up. It's too small. I need maybe size 5 to 7. And the leg, I'm gonna do it, usually I like doing my limbs the same way, like clean them all the way to the line. They're going to be overlapping other parts anyways. They're going to be overlapping, the torso is going to be overlapping them a little bit. I have to clean this up. I think my eraser is too big. Bring it to 2. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Delete it all the way to the line. Erase it all the way to the line. I'm going to take this shadow out. I don't need it. The shadow will be on its own layer, especially during animation. And I'm going to cut this off too. Beautiful. Now, let's go ahead and bring our inker. No, let me bring actually the, let me just select a color here. I'm going to select the shadow color, and I'm going to fill it in here. This all needs to be shadow area. And we can already tell it's going to be, part of it is going to be covered by the hand, by his right hand. Cleaning up. Making the shadow look a lot nicer now. Filling in every single pixel that I want to fill in. And by the way, this shadow light areas is what makes your work 3D kind of feel. It gives it the 3D kind of feeling. We're gonna choose the color. Now we're gonna work with the highlights. Make his feet a little bit highlighted. He looks like a green shrike. I'm gonna make this go all the way kind of to the line. And I'm gonna make his nails let me work on his nails a little bit, not too much, just a little bit, because they're satisfactory to me. Oops, that's not the color I'm looking for. I'm looking for this. Oh no, that's still not the color I'm looking for. This is the color I'm looking for. Just add a little bit of darkness in his nails to make them feel a little bit rounded. And whenever I see this pixelation, all it reminds me is of NFTs. I don't know why I feel like NFTs are supposed to be pixelation. I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and choose a different color. This one, still working on the highlights, making them a lot more rounded and even more brighter now to give them the shine. To give them the a little bit of the shine there. If we zoom out, you'll be able to see that shine. And now we're gonna go ahead and bring black and work on our outline of the entire leg and foot. And that's another thing. So when we are animating, you may choose to do one or the other. You may choose to have some of these parts of the leg, for example, the ones that you want to fold while he's walking, you may choose to have them redrawn, or you may choose to have them actually, I think this line is too thick. I'm going to go ahead and decrease it. Or you may choose to have them broken into pieces as well. For example, we can break this foot off and give it a whole different layer and animate it all by itself, because the foot moves, right? When the character walks, the foot moves, and so every part that moves on its own is ideal. It's supposed to be on its own layer to make the work a lot simpler. So what's gonna happen, I'm actually gonna make this a little bigger like this. I'm gonna take it all the way into up top there, so I can actually hide it underneath his torso. So now I made a decision. I think the torso is gonna be on top of the legs. So I'm gonna color this in all the way, so it can be hidden underneath the torso. And that way, when it moves, it doesn't move off of his body. It still shows up. Still a little bit of cleaning up here. A few pixels are running on me here. And I need line. Oops, not green. I need a black line because I'm working on the outline. And that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good for a leg. So what we're going to do is let's turn it on. And you can see it's supposed to be underneath the torso to make sense. If it's behind the torso, look how wonky it looks. If it's behind it, it looks good. So that's what we're going for. And if we can turn the hand on, you can see. Turn the head on, you can see what's happening there. What else have we worked on? It's only those that we've worked on. Oh, we worked on the left hand as well. So you can see how it's starting to come to life. And all we need to do now is we need to create another leg for him to stand on, and he'll be all set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the leg, and I'll duplicate it. And you can see they're already starting to give me a warning about the layers, because Flipaclip can stand only many layers. And I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So about 10 layers will be kind of too much. So I'll go ahead and duplicate the layer anyways. And I'll rename it as left leg. Now this is where your renaming is going to be helpful, so you don't mix up the layers. So I'm going to rename it as left leg, and I'm going to make sure it's underneath both the chest and the right leg. So the right leg is supposed to be in front of it. So what's going to happen, I'm going to go ahead and select it. Select all the information on the left leg layer. So go ahead and select all of it and move it, slide it over. Slide it over. But for it to make sense, it has to be underneath the right leg layer. So right there. And I'm going to tweak it to make sure it fits in position where I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and select it one more time, because right now you can see it's a little bit wonky. And this is the problem with just copying and pasting. It's helpful, but when it goes bizarre, it could go really bizarre on you. So you want it to fit in the right way. So I'm going to bring it around. Let me actually put it in comparison to my sketch or the ink layer. So I'm going to put it into comparison to that other leg that we have in there. So now let me go ahead and move it. And it makes sense if it stands right there. And you can see now our entire character is complete. You have different layers. It's the same exact character, but in different layers. And it shows up exactly the same, but it's unmatable now. If you want to move it, you could just select that layer. And by the way, the other thing that is actually really cool is that in Procreate, you have to create groups and keep moving those groups over and over again. But the good thing about Flipaclip is that you just have to keep duplicating the keyframe. For example, if we go here, you can just say copy everything on that frame. It's going to copy everything on that frame, including all the layers, and you can duplicate it right or left. And if you go to move anything now, for example, here, you're just going to go here and select what layer you want to be on. For example, I want to be, say, on the say right hand. Where's the right hand? And you can just select it. You can just select it and start to animate. Start to move it. This is what animation ready characters means. You see that? So if you play even those two, actually let me just take it wildly and put it all the way back here. For example, he's moving his hand all the way in the back. So what's gonna happen we have all the information you need, and you're just going to start animating it just like that. Just like that. And so now our character's animation ready. I'm going to go ahead and undo that. I'm actually going to go ahead and undo this entire thing. Delete it. We have to start thinking about what we want to make him do in order for us to animate him. But I see a little bit of cleanup that I need to do, which is around right here. I'm going to do a little bit of cleaning up there on his torso, and that will be it. And I'll give him a little bit of a shadow, and we'll be all done. He's now ready to start animating. All right, so this cleaning up here a little bit is going to be, let me see what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on here on the chest area, and I'm actually going to add it as a shadow, so which means I'm going to choose my highlighter. And for the color, I'm going to choose the shadow color, and I'm going to add it right here on the chest layer. Yeah, we are on the right layer. Just a shadow to cover up. Oops, that's too much. It's eating on my lines. Just a little bit of a shadow. Not too much. There. Because it was looking kind of weird there. It looked like he was kind of broken or something. And that was an effect of what happened with the fact that we cut his legs off. So those were the remnants of the leg. And that looks pretty boss. And what's gonna happen, we're gonna move from here, guys. Next time I see you here on the live, or next time that we see you on the video, we're gonna be animating. And for this character, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a walk cycle. So we'll go through a walk cycle. We're gonna make him walk, and we'll do a quick blink cycle and a little bit of a lip sync there for you guys, so we can make a full package. But on the next character, we're going to be drawing frame by frame all the way. We're not going to be creating a puppet to start animating. We're going to be creating frame by frame character, and we're going to be drawing each frame on its own. And that way we can also learn how to animate, frame by frame, where we draw up the entire frame and just not create a puppet.